Kings guard De'Aaron Fox hitting the trade market. He would certainly be the biggest name that we have leading up to the trade deadline. At least it's been revealed so far. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. We're going to dive into this. What would it look like? What would the Kings be trying to get? And why would they be trading De'Aaron Fox as rumors are starting to swirl? Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Only about 80% of our viewership is not subscribed right now. That's a pretty big chunk of our viewership is not subscribed. So do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. I'm joined by Donnie Freeman. Donnie, De'Aaron Fox, he's a fantastic player. And if he does hit the trade market, that's going to shape things up significantly in as we head towards February 6th, which is the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you see players of his caliber pop on the market. So I'm interested to see what teams could potentially, if he is on the market, make a move for him.
I'll tell you, I think a lot of teams should be interested. Here's the latest from Matt Moore. Last month, De'Aaron Fox turned down a $165 million extension. The assumption was that this was about next summer's financial opportunity for Fox and nothing to worry about. Other executives aren't so sure and they're ready to pounce. So De'Aaron Fox can get, if he signs an extension with the Kings this coming summer, he can get over $200 million. So there's a lot of financial incentive to not do the extension last summer. But one thing that would likely change this conversation is if Fox secured an all-NBA selection and opened up the Supermax for him to re-sign. That's absolutely on the table for a player averaging 28, 5, and 6. If he doesn't, though, and the Kings season is going sideways, things are going to get hot. Fox is represented by Clutch Sports, which means there's always drama around the corner. I like he throws that little dig in there at Clutch Sports. But so essentially saying, look, De'Aaron Fox is gambling on, hey, I'm going to make all NBA. That's going to get me over $200 million. But if not, if I'm not going to get more money, maybe that does push him to say, do we really have what it takes here in Sacramento? You know, we talked about the Kings yesterday, Donnie, and both kind of came to the conclusion that we think the Kings are a bit better than what their record suggests. But if they continue to be on the outside looking into the playoffs, which will not help De'Aaron Fox's all-NBA case at all, if they're not in the playoff mix, then things suddenly get very, very interesting. So right now, De'Aaron Fox is making $34.8 million. Given what he is as an NBA player, and we'll get into his stats, we'll get into what is really going on with Sacramento, who should be interested in all that, but $34.8 million, Donnie, I would think most teams should be very interested in De'Aaron Fox if he does hit the market.
Absolutely. $34 million for a player like that. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's not, $34 million today isn't $34 million, 10 years ago. I would be all in on that for De'Aaron Fox. I think he is a player that if you get him, if you have any aspirations, he's going to propel you towards probably becoming one of the favorites to winning it all. And here's the fun thing is that if you don't have aspirations, you just want it to be a playoff team. Guess what? You get De'Aaron Fox. All of a sudden, once again, you're probably a contender if your team was good enough. Like I could see him plug into any team, really. I mean, there's not a shortage of good guards in the NBA. I think that's probably the most saturated position with depth in the league. But I think he's one of the top guards in the league, and he's still young. He's got the skill set that you can build around too. So I think that if he's out there, you've got to, like I said earlier, you got to pounce on that. And it's not even too much money. It's not like he's at 45, 50. I think where the concern could potentially come from is if he is looking for more money following this contract.
I think, and yes, he is, but he's 27 years old. I'm okay with giving. I think he is a star. I think he's a star in this league. I know he's only a one-time All-Star, but I think that's more of the product of him being in the Western Conference. Steph Curry is in the West. You've got some other really good guards in the Western Conference, but I think De'Aaron Fox is a star. I really like his game. Now, the three-point shooting has dropped off from last season. That was the big adjustment last season was, hey, now De'Aaron Fox, last two seasons, I suppose, De'Aaron Fox is shooting the three. I'm sorry. I put up
3 seasons.
I put up Kevin Huerter's numbers. That was Kevin. We're getting to Kevin Huerter in a minute because I've got a bone to pick with Kevin Huerter. We're getting to him in just a minute. Here's De'Aaron Fox, who has dropped off a little bit. From three, 37% from three last season, 34% this season. Last season, it was, De'Aaron Fox can shoot threes now because that was his weakness for years, for his entire NBA career. And then it became, oh no, now what do we do with this guy that is a guy we have to defend on the perimeter? Plus, he's so fast that if we do defend him, he's going to blow by us. I don't know. See, you mentioned, Donnie, that not a lot of teams need point guards. And you're right. But when you look at 28 and 6 for De'Aaron Fox plus 4 rebounds, like how many point guards are you taking ahead of De'Aaron Fox if we were to throw out contracts?
Yeah. I think maybe there's not very many.
There's at least a few, but not a lot. I think that's the point.
I think what for those teams that don't need a point guard, I think they could see De'Aaron, regardless of if that team, in question already has like an all-star point guard or something. They could see De'Aaron as an upgrade and then pull the trigger there. I think that's one of the things that you would have to consider at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he'd be an upgrade for a lot of teams. And here's the thing. And you know what? They mentioned Matt Moore mentioned Clutch Sports there, and it's fair to mention. But if it's pretty clear that the Kings don't have it, and De'Aaron Fox goes to the Kings and says, I would like to be traded, he does have some measure of control here because he's hitting free agency, not this summer, but next summer. Now, he could really flex that muscle this next summer. This coming summer, he could say, hey, I'm on the final year of my contract. Just so you guys know, I'll be leaving next summer. I'm going to sign somewhere else. Get what you can for me or whatever. He could steer his destination that way too, because teams will want to know if they trade for him, hey, will you sign with us? And if he says no, then that's that. So he already, though, will have some measure of control because teams, if you're going to invest what you would have to invest to get De'Aaron Fox from the Kings, teams will want to know, will you re-sign with us in the summer of 2026? And so he can control his destination there.
Yeah, I was saying don't do it because I thought you were going to say he's going to try to force his way to another California team there.
Oh, no. Just because of Clutch.
Yeah, just don't do it. Man, could you imagine him on the Clippers, dude? That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly where you're going, right? The Clippers, the Warriors, that's the team that you were thinking of.
Right.
I'm totally sure. That's definitely what you were thinking of. I'll say this, though. If I'm Sacramento, I am doing everything I can to not trade De'Aaron Fox. And absolutely. I know we can look at this team and we could say, oh, well, they're not where they should be in the standings. And, we talked about the Kevin O'Connor tweet from yesterday about how they need to, tear this thing down so they keep their pick. And I'm just not there with Sacramento. I know they're 9-12 right now. They're the 12th seed in the Western Conference. I get it. But man, when I dig into the advanced stats here on this team, there is a much bigger issue that's holding them back. And I know a lot of people want to point the finger at DeMar DeRozan, and I understand it. And you want to say, well, DeMar's the difference this year. He's slowing things down and all this stuff. Take a look at this, though. Take a look at this. We put De'Aaron Fox on the floor for the Sacramento Kings. It's going to be a good thing for them. They're plus 1.9. But watch what happens when I take De'Aaron Fox on the court and I remove Kevin Huerter from the mix. And instead, you're playing like a Malik Monk or a Keon Ellis. Take a look. Plus 9.3 points per 100 possessions. They're very good when you have just anybody else at the 2 than Kevin Huerter. It makes them a much, much better team. So the Kings, the rumor was that Kevin Huerter and Trey Lyles are the guys on the trade block. Yeah, I should hope so. And the advanced metrics say you shouldn't be playing them a whole lot anyway, particularly Huerter, because their backcourt, their overall effectiveness, it's simply better when you don't have him out there right now with De'Aaron Fox. He's in a terrible shooting slump. He's not playing well. And this, to me, you look at Huerter's stats, 40% from the field, 28% from 3. That is one of the much bigger issues holding back the Sacramento Kings than the play of De'Aaron Fox.
Is Huerter positive in any lineup configuration right now? Just for the record, that's a decently used one, not like a super small sample size one.
Well, let's take a peek here. Kevin Huerter, is he a positive in any lineup? And again, you could put there's more blame to be placed here in Sacramento. Sure. We could talk about a number of other players. The play of Keegan Murray, his shooting. He's a positive with Sabonis, Keegan Murray. Basically, they're starting 5. But when you get into Kevin Huerter playing the 3, he instantly goes negative. It drops pretty quickly from there.
Yeah. Okay. So. Well, that makes sense. Well, I think that the team does have a lot of issues, but it is pretty damning when you can select one player like this and see that the team is basically just playing worse when they're out there. And I think that's because his shooting numbers are so bad right now.
Yeah.
You're not getting the extra value of having him out there if you're this team. And there were, in the other video, we talked about a lot of different things that were really impacting this team performance, like the fact that they're pretty small on the interior there. They don't have a lot of size just in general. They're pretty speedy, and they rely on that primarily. They also are playing two small guards like those two you just selected there oftentimes. And
Yeah.
sometimes that could be a little bit of a detriment. But one of the things that we did also see was that, they're not getting the production that they would expect from some of these guys. And they're also just having bad luck with 3-point shooting. But yeah, I think the way I look at this team is that I think you hold on to Fox. I think you hold on to Sabonis. I mean, you kind of have to with at least Sabonis because that contract extension. But I think that your core four with those two, Monk and DeRozan, you can build around that, especially because at least Monk comes off the bench, so you don't have a lot of ball dominant players in the starting group. But I think you could build around that, and all the other guys on the roster, Murray included. You could try to pivot and rebuild around, and Herter would be somebody that you would be getting rid of in that case.
Yeah, I think that's the more appropriate move for the Sacramento Kings. You look at De'Aaron Fox's points per shot attempt. He ranks in the 72nd percentile relative to his position. Assists are low, but you would expect the assists to be low when no one around him can hit a shot. That's, he's got Keegan Murray not shooting well. Here it is. Here's De'Aaron Fox. This is, by the way, Cleaning the Glass, fantastic resource. You look at De'Aaron Fox defensively. With De'Aaron Fox on the court, the Kings are in the 84th percentile defensively, not known as a good defensive team, but De'Aaron Fox out there making a difference. Their points per possession with De'Aaron Fox out there, 26th percentile. I guarantee you that's because the guys that he's passing to, Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, these are guys that are not shooting the ball well at all. And so the Kings' offensive efficiency is just plummeting. But again, none of this to me says De'Aaron Fox is the problem. However, even if the Kings agree, and they should agree, that De'Aaron Fox is not the problem, if he comes to them and says, you know what, it's not working, I'm done, it doesn't matter whether or not they think he's the problem. They have a very tough decision to make because of this contract. Donnie, what would be if you are De'Aaron Fox, where do you want to go if you ask for a trade?
Ooh.
And what could the Kings expect to get back in return?
Oh, I would really like De'Aaron Fox. Just hypothetically speaking, because I don't know all the workings of it, but when you asked me that, what immediately popped into my mind was pairing him with somebody like Giannis. I think that would be amazing. Pairing a guard like De'Aaron with him, that would be amazing. Now they do have Dame. Yeah, they do have Dame, and so in that case, you know what? I like Dame a lot, but at the end of the day, De'Aaron is 5-6 years younger.
I would take De'Aaron.
I think you still do. I like Dame a lot, but I mean, at some point, I know that his skill set is going to age well, but at some point, you may want to get a younger player in there. So I would like that as a landing spot for him. And it's tricky because he can come to them and say, you know what, I'm sick of losing. I'm sick of barely making the playoffs. Which, I mean, for this organization, that was pretty cool for a couple years, right? Given that they spent 2 decades not doing that, but he could come to them and say, I just want a change of scenery. And we know, like they said earlier, Clutch is going to be very aggressive with putting him not only in the position to get the most money, but to be successful as a player. That's one of the things that they like to try to do. So that's something that could happen. But I think if you're the Kings, or if that happens where Fox basically forces his way out because he would have that control, I think you try to just move on to the next best thing. Like, say, for example, if it does work, which I don't think they can actually do this trade, but hypothetically speaking, you can get Dame back. I mean, sure, I would feel pretty comfortable, putting Dame with this roster as it is and then just working on the margins. I think that could be a competitive team.
Well, if Fox does come to you and say you're going to trade, he wants to trade, then you have to decide, okay, if we are going to do this and we're going to explore the market here, then you have to decide, do you go, as Kevin O'Connor recommended, with a full teardown and we try to keep our pick? And if that's the case, then you're not interested in Dame. Or do you say, we don't want to bottom this out, then maybe you are interested. And I agree with you. I think that, De'Aaron Fox would be an upgrade for the Bucks. I don't know that they make that drastic of a move. I'll tell you that the two that I thought of initially.
The Hawks are a good one too.
Well, the Hawks already did the DeJounte Murray and Trae Young thing together. So
No, you'd
that
be getting rid of Trey.
you would trade Trey and get De'Aaron.
I think that's another thing I'd consider. But I don't want to underrate Trey. Trey fans, I don't want to underrate Trey. I think he's
No,
great. I think he's
I
great.
think Trey in general is underrated.
Yeah, I don't
I
want to
think he's
do that.
underrated. Not a
I
lot,
think
but a
Trey's
little bit.
great. I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves.
I'll tell you the team. I'll give you an East team and a West team. The East team that I think, because they're in on everybody of this caliber, it's the team that missed out on Dame. It's the Miami Heat.
Oh, okay.
The
That's a
Miami
good one.
Heat would be all in on De'Aaron Fox. And again, because of the contract situation, De'Aaron Fox would get to say, yes, I want to play for that team. No, I don't. That would certainly matter. But the Miami Heat would be a team that I bet would be interested. They would like to pair De'Aaron Fox with, and I'm sure like a Tyler Hero would be involved in a package going out, but they'd like to pair him with Bam Adebayo for the future. So I think the Miami Heat would be a team to keep an eye on there. You've got some teams at the bottom of the East that could, God, look at Philly still sitting there. You could potentially get in the mix, but I don't think they're at a point where De'Aaron Fox would say, yes, sign me up for that. I'll tell you the West team though, and I don't like it as a fan of another Western Conference team. I don't like it, but it's the San Antonio Spurs.
I was just looking
Spurs.
at them. I didn't. So like when you asked me this, I just went off the top of the dome. Looking at the list here, and you scroll down, I saw San Antonio. Oh, that's perfect.
It's the Spurs. He'd be a perfect fit there. Obviously, they've already got Stephon Castle, who can kind of play the role. They've got Chris Paul, but if you can get a player the caliber of De'Aaron Fox, he would be a fantastic fit there in San Antonio. They've got future draft capital they could trade. He would be great. He would be great with Wemby. That would put San Antonio into being an instant playoff team. Of course, I would love to say De'Aaron Fox come to the Lakers. Every fan base should say, I would want this guy on my team. But I think San Antonio is a team that could really go in. Now, if you're the Kings, depending on what you are trying to do, are you trying to keep your pick, your top 10 protected pick, or are you trying to stay afloat in the West and still make the playoffs? That's going to determine what kind of trade package is going to be interesting if you're pushed into this kind of situation. But if you're Sacramento, man, I would expect a significant return here. I mean, we're talking multiple picks. We're talking young players. Maybe like if you're trying to win now, it would be a player who's just a tier or two below De'Aaron Fox in terms of quality. I would be demanding a lot in a trade if I was the Sacramento Kings because De'Aaron Fox is that good.
Who's the worst starting guard in the league you trade De'Aaron for? Assuming that there's compensation as well with it.
The worst starting guard, you mean what's like the bare minimum? Or
yeah, like the floor, including obviously they would make up for it in picks, but like who would you? Is that like Jordan Poole or like where are you going?
Oh, from the Sacramento side, like who would you take back?
Sacramento.
Oh man, the worst player I would take back in a trade.
That's a tough one, right?
You would have to be getting it's where the value would have to be all in the draft picks.
Yeah,
that would have to be the value. Would be all the draft capital that you have coming in. If you're trying to win now, what about Fred VanVleet with Houston? Okay. And they shorted the Suns' future. They have Suns picks. What if you're Sacramento? You can get Fred VanVleet, try to stay afloat, and get the Suns picks.
Oh, Houston! Oh my God, they had De'Aaron Fox.
What about that?
God. Yeah, that would be disgusting. I don't want to see that at all. But yeah, that's where like I have no doubt in my mind that I don't think these guys are going to want to rebuild at all. If they are doing a rebuild, it's going to be like a quick 1 year, we're back in this thing.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to try to actually do any because like I think with any other organization, you can make an argument, but I think not for this team because they spent so long in a perpetual rebuild, right? So like I think that matters a lot. And I think they would be, personally speaking, I think they'd be more okay with just kind of existing in, the 5, 6, 7 range going forward. I think they'd be more okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. They would maybe more than a typical franchise would be because of their lack of playoff appearances of late. Well, I'm really curious though. Everybody, what do you think? Where would be the best landing spot for De'Aaron Fox? What kind of package could the Kings expect in return should he indeed hit the market? Right now, the vultures are circling. They're keeping a very close eye on the Kings because with his contract situation, we could be just a short ways off from De'Aaron Fox wanting out of Sacramento. And if that's the case, start your engines, because this trade deadline this year is going to get crazy if De'Aaron Fox is suddenly on the market. So let me know in the comment section, what would you trade De'Aaron Fox for? What kind of deal would you be expecting if he does wind up getting moved? And go check out our latest video, which is on Kyle Kuzma potentially being moved from the Washington Wizards, as well as some other players on that team and what the Wizards could be getting in return there. So go check that out right now.